For the longest time, I secretly wanted more. I often found myself shrinking to fit in, settling for what was comfortable, and even selling myself short. Once I finally accepted that we deserve success and we are blessed with the power to achieve it, I stopped playing small. I'm serious about building a life I love, and you should be too. I'm Denise Taylor of DeniseTaylor.live, and welcome to Life, Love, in the Pursuit of Happiness. I help women prioritize themselves, their success, and their happiness. Let's meet this week's achiever whose story will inspire you to push past your fears and soar. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Life, Love, in the Pursuit of Happiness. I'm always excited to have you join me here. This week, we're going to be talking about trusting ourselves. I always love talking to Evelyn LeVasseur. She is like a therapeutic voice for me. For some reason, I end up laid out on the couch every time we talk. She becomes a source of self-care for me. She allows me to unpack and share from an authentic and transparent space. And I think when you listen to this conversation, you'll hear so many nuggets about how you can become more confident in you as I begin to share from my experience and she begins to share from hers. So take a listen today and listen for superpower number 4, which is take care of you, because the journey that she is really a strong advocate for is one about taking care of yourself. And I'll see you on the other side. Well, it is always my delightful pleasure to invite Evelyn on with me and have conversations. She and I can just talk about anything, talk about one another, support one another. She is just a beautiful person inside and out. And I marvel at how she still resonates with the quiet storm. I just cannot get away from that. And I say that because she has a very mild temperament, but yet she's results driven. She's focused on making a difference. She's committed to her family and to those she serves. And she will not let you wimp out on your goals, on your aspirations. She is that nudge that helps you move forward. And so that is why she is the quiet storm to me. So Evelyn is not a stranger to this platform. She partnered with me for the Success Conference, but I wanted to bring her back and have her be a part of having a more in-depth conversation for exactly how she is helping women to change their mindsets, to shift their focus from outside concerns to inside development and really care, self-care, genuine self-care, and being able to own our own truth. And I don't want to steal any more thunder. I want Evelyn to introduce herself to you guys. I want you to take in everything we're going to talk about, because I'm telling you, every time we connect, it is a great conversation, and I know today is going to be much of the same. So welcome, Evelyn, to Life, Love, in the Pursuit of Happiness, and please do the honor of telling us more about you.
Well, thank you, Denise, for having me on. And I just wanted to say that your introductions, first of all, are amazing, but also you saw something in me, in the power of my voice, before I recognized it. So I really credit you with helping pull that out of me and helping myself see that, you know, there is power in sharing your story, and there is power in the way you show up for people. So, you know, thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Evelyn. As Denise said, I'm the owner of Evelyn LeVassuer Fitness, and I focus on helping busy moms reach their goals without dieting. And I say that because I was a chronic dieter for almost 19 years, and I know the physical, mental, emotional ramifications that come with it. So I am intent on helping people not feel that way and not suffer that way, and to make sure that we equip ourselves with the tools that keep us so strong that we make sure our children don't have to face that either.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think what's beautiful about your journey is that it truly ignited passion within you. And that passion has translated into purpose. And how you show up for your clients is a way that helps to draw out the same from them. And you said we won't always feel strong, but we can not choose to give up. Why is that important?
I feel like when we're in the thick of things, when things are really bad for us, it's easy to just shrink yourself and get stuck in that hurt. But I think it's important to remember that pain is temporary. Like everything else, everything is temporary, but you can choose to focus on, I don't just want to say the positive, but you can choose to focus on gratitude. You can choose to focus on the good in your life, because even the most difficult situations that you're in bring you out stronger. You know, for every hurt that you feel, there's a lesson learned and a little piece of you changes and ultimately shapes who you are later. So I feel like, you know, you can't always just say, I'm going to be strong and I'm going to power through this, but you can take it moment by moment, understand what it is, go within and choose gratitude each and every time. And you will find that even in the most difficult moments, there was something in there that shaped you even more.
Mhm. And it's interesting because when you look at the heart of where you're serving, which is helping people to understand how to go through a weight loss process, right? You discover through that they have to be courageous to do that, right? They have to be courageous to do the mindset work and courageous to do the self truth work, to understand their voice and all of those different things. How did you make that connection between all those valuable aspects around worth and around courage and all the great things that you talk about from a mindset standpoint to weight loss?
Well, so I'm gonna go back. Being a little girl, right up until college, I was, super fit and athletic, and I got so much attention for my body, so much that I took it on as a part of my identity. So when I started to gain weight, that freshman 15 in college, I started to lose myself. And that's where I fell in love with dieting, because it felt like a little bit of control. It felt like, oh, if I just did what Denise told me to do, then I'm going to get that result, you know? So, flash forward years later, still dieting, married my very best friend, my husband, who I've known since I was 12. Um, and he wanted kids very quickly. I was a little hesitant at first, but, flash forward a couple of years, and we had two losses, one very early in my pregnancy, one a lot later. And, having that second loss does something to you mentally. It brings you into this dark place, this questioning, this lack of trust with your very own body. Like, I felt my baby moving. I felt my body change. And what do you mean there's no baby there? You lose trust with your own body. You lose that sense of connection. You start to feel a little defective, truly. So through a lot of prayer and a lot of tears and a lot of journaling and struggling and difficult conversations, we decided to try a third time a year later. And this time I got pregnant very quickly, like the first two, but I stayed pregnant. And a little tiny part of me couldn't feel the joy that I know I was supposed to feel or should have felt, because I was too afraid. I was too afraid to be hopeful, because losing a third baby would break me. Um, but in February 10th, 2009, my baby girl was born. And it wasn't until I held her, it wasn't until the doctor put her right in front of me, that I finally felt like this is real. And that's when I told God, I promised God, I am going to be an exceptional mother. I am going to raise my daughters with intention. And part of that intention was focusing on their character instead of their appearance. I have two daughters now, raising them to see that we're all different and beautiful. raising them not to judge. Now, there was a little bit of a disconnect. So I raised them with intention, yes, but I couldn't understand how other people were going to impact them. And I share this story often. I was at a picnic with my 2 daughters and my husband, and a woman says to my 10-year-old, honey, if you want to keep that figure, you better lay off those burgers. And I remember feeling like shocked and raging a little bit inside, but also understanding that I don't think that woman intentionally, was trying to impact the way my daughter saw herself or food. I just think what she said was a reflection of how she felt. And that is when everything changed for me, is when I realized, like, we as mothers want the best for our kids, but we teach them to shrink themselves. We teach them that smaller is better. And I also had to realize at that moment, if I was going to be a catalyst for change for anyone else, then I had to start with myself first. Because yes, I was raising my daughters with intention, and I was raising them to see themselves positively and focus on their character, but I still felt like I wasn't enough. I was actually doing the opposite, trying to do the opposite for them, raise them to feel strong and confident and self-loving, but I didn't feel that way about myself. And I had to start by breaking down all of my lessons, figuring out, where does this idea of I am not enough come from? How can I raise my daughters to be strong and self-loving if I'm not willing to model that for them? So my passion was definitely ignited at that picnic, where I realized, wow, our issues run deep. Our relationship with food is deep, but also my relationship with self is not healthy. And I cannot raise my daughters to be healthy until I can repair that first. And that is what changed the trajectory of everything for me.
Yeah. And in that moment, because you had been on your own journey, you discovered how dangerous those words were, and how they could land and take root in a way that could totally discredit her own image of herself, the confidence she had within herself, because she was still in such a formative years, right? She's still a young girl, and she's hearing that, which then of course always makes you begin with the questions of, well, what's wrong with me, right? And what do you mean I can't eat? And those are the same things that lead to tendencies and behaviors around mindset and food that are just not healthy. And so I think one of the beautiful things is that you had a chance to arrest that, right? You had a chance to really grab those words back from your daughter, so that she didn't have to take them and be stuck on them, and grow and allow them to foster and manifest into something that you knew wasn't a good place to be from your own journey, and what you had to fight for to get them. And so it's an interesting dynamic, because you definitely a mother bear now, like I fought to get my babies here, right? And the value that they have to my life is extremely precious. And you are trying to come in under some pretense that you've got a right to say whatever it is that you think you want to say to them, and disrupt what I'm trying to do here. And that is a really great part of how you began to discover your courage. How are you offering that to your child now? Like, how are you stimulating those types of thoughts and processes in them as an act of legacy?
I mean, I feel like not only is it a matter of having those real, raw, honest conversations with them in age appropriate ways, because the girls are 12 and 9 now, but also letting them watch me love myself, letting them watch me exercise because I enjoy it, letting them watch me eat a variety of foods. And I don't mean like sitting there and just eating salads. I mean, yes, we have salad for dinner sometimes. Yes, we sit and, split a chocolate cake.
Mhm.
It's not so much about the verbal, it's more about them watching me live. So they get to see health in action. And then we have the conversations to top it off. They get to hear me speak about myself and other women, about our character, not about ever wanting what someone else has or wanting, to look a certain way. They get to hear me talk about having gratitude for myself. Because that was a lesson I learned very, very late. I realized that I was so grateful for my life. I was so grateful that I was living this life that I prayed for, that God had answered my prayers. I have an amazing relationship with my husband. I have 2 beautiful daughters. I love my home. I love the work that I do. So I was grateful, but I wasn't grateful for me. I treated myself like an outsider looking in, and I realized that in order to show true gratitude, I had to include myself in that. I had to realize that I wasn't just blessed, but that I am a blessing. And that shift in mindset was so powerful that it just makes me feel so much closer to my daughters. It makes me feel closer to my husband, and it makes me feel closer to God to know that I mean, I am a blessing. I am a blessing to them. And it took a long time to know that. It took a long time to know that.
Yeah, discovering your worth was something that rang out loud and clear when you shared. You said if we refuse to acknowledge the hurt that we as parents, specifically moms, are feeling, that it will eventually become our children's burden to bear. And when I heard that, right, I think about those things that our children are responsible to take care of on our behalf when we're no longer able to do that. And so it's more than just the to-do of my finances. It's the to-do of your health. It's the to-do of your mindset. It's the to-do of every aspect of who you are. And if you are not approaching that, the holistic that of who you are in a way that ensures it is as healthy as you can possibly make it, you are indeed passing that on as a burden for your children to bear. And you went on to say we must become aware that how we treat ourselves impacts people who we love. And I found that to be extremely powerful. Unpack that for us.
I think that our actions are the biggest lessons to anyone around us. We can say things, I can tell my children that I love them a million times a day, but if my actions aren't loving, then they won't feel loved. That's it. So my actions have to reflect what I want them to feel. And my actions toward myself also have to reflect how I want them to treat me, how I want them to treat themselves. So if you're not willing to show yourself acceptance, true acceptance, like with no conditions, we tend as women to see other people and accept them for who they are, but only love ourselves with conditions. But we need to give ourselves what we so freely give to other people, compassion. And I think that being able to do that, being able to live in compassion, and what that means is it sounds kind of woo-woo, but what that means is just giving yourself grace and not being negative toward yourself, not comparing yourself, not living in lack, just knowing that you are enough. It changes your actions. It changes the way you show up. It changes the way you behave with your family. And the better you feel about yourself, the better everyone is around you. And it's those lessons that shape their memories of everything growing up. I don't want my girls to look down at their childhood and say, my mommy had a really clean house and my mommy had a great body. Not that kids think that, but I want them to say, my mommy was always there to hug me. My mommy smiled when she saw me when I walked in the room. My mommy smiled when she looked at herself in the mirror. I want them to know that love starts with you, and they have to love themselves just like I love them too.
And what you're talking about is how we model ourselves. And when we say ourselves, how we model who we are, what we are, how we treat ourselves, how we model that before all of the little eyes watching, right? Because we think a lot about the children within our home, but there are so many other children in our lives, especially when we think of our extended family, be it nieces, nephews, mentees, little kids in the neighborhood. We model that. And so when you're encouraging us to live fully in self-love so that that is modeled before them, help us understand why that's critical to do.
I think living fully in self-love, to fully accept and trust yourself, is powerful. And I feel like that creates a ripple, just a ripple of betterness everywhere. If you are comfortable in your skin and you are confident and you are accepting, then you don't have room in your heart for judgment of other people. You don't have room in your heart for negativity or comparison. You automatically, you carry yourself with this energy that lifts other people up. And the more centered you are, the more other people feel centered as well. And they begin to carry themselves in that way also. And I can give you like 2 examples that I can think of, just seeing how our conversations and our behaviors change my daughters. So my daughter, my youngest daughter, is very sure of who she is. She is 9 years old and she is, a firecracker. She wanted to shave the side of her head. Now, when we talk about full acceptance, right, that has to come without judgment. So that means I have to put aside my thoughts and support hers. So anyway, we had her think about it for a solid 8 months. If you can not change your mind this whole time, we support you. It's your head and it's just hair. Just know that, it doesn't grow back quickly. So by the time she was turning her 8th birthday, she's like, I haven't changed my mind. I really want to do this. So we said, okay. And I said to her, I just want you to know not everyone will have a positive reaction. And I want you to be ready for that. But I don't care what you do with your hair. You're always beautiful. You're always strong. You're a wonderful girl. Her only response to me was, Mommy, if somebody doesn't like what I've done with my hair, I will tell them that it's probably not for them. That's it. And I'm like, okay. That is testament to the fact that we don't live in comparison. We don't live worried about what other people are going to think or how they're going to react. And then another situation I'm thinking about with my older daughter is she had a boy in school that was a pretty big behavior problem, very disruptive. I asked her, does that like distract you in school? Do you, how do you feel about what's happening? And she's like, Mommy, my heart hurts for him. And I'm like, why? Like, what do you think? And she says, if somebody is that angry, he must not be treated very nicely at home. So I just make sure that I pray for him.
Wow.
And that to me, she was about 11 at the time. That to me was testament of the fact that if you are truly teaching self-compassion and self-love and focused on the fact that you are in charge of your behaviors and your actions and your thoughts, that they will see that in other people, that other people's behavior won't impact them the way it impacted me.
What's so beautiful about the clarity that they had is, one of the things I was going to say earlier is that when you see a person, whether they're making a comment like the one you had mentioned before, or they're acting out, or they don't see with clarity, it is generally because they are looking through the lens of an experience that is not well for them. And so, because the experience is not well for them, then the lens that they look out is tainted, it's jaded, and it's usually just kind of a conglomerate of all of the crazy that they are dealing with that they then believe is someone else's truth as well. And I think it's beautiful that in the innocence of your children, they were able to recognize that. The youngest one was able to say, well, these just aren't my people, right? If they can't understand where I'm coming from, then they're not my people. And the older one was able to recognize the pain and not take it personal, but to then say to herself, you know what, I need to help. And the best help I know is to pray for them. And so if we could package that perspective of acceptance, which came from self-love, right? Because once you get to the point where you're the blessing, I am more than blessed, I am a blessing. Once you get to the point of recognizing that is when you can have impact in situations that you show up in, and you can kind of ignite them into a freedom. And so, as I'm talking, I am connecting the dots as to why the journey that you have laid out is so powerful to dispelling all of the bad behaviors around food that have occurred. Because when you can get to the truth of what's really going on, right? The truth of what's really happening, then you can change the behavior so that it's not discrediting or disrupting or even causing a dissolve on you as a person. That's powerful what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I think that the greatest maybe metaphor that I could use or analogy is when we want to lose weight, right? And that's not an invalid goal. Like if that's something that you want to do, that's valid. But when we want to lose weight, we go straight to food and exercise. I'm going to fix the outside. Okay. I look at that as equivalent to buying a new house or buying a house that is damaged, that the foundation is cracking. And you say, well, I'm going to hire an interior decorator. She's going to make it beautiful. Why would you make that house beautiful on the outside if it's just going to fall apart from the inside? Just like, why are you focusing on the exterior of your body when you haven't focused on your foundation? If you can set a strong foundation, the outside will naturally be stronger.
That's beautiful. Now, before you unpack some incredibly powerful things that I want to touch on today, you talked about how understanding mindset impacts healing. And I think that is a big part of the journey that you're helping to outline. And that was the dot that I connected, right? I was like, Evelyn is taking these people on a healing journey. And I don't even think that they realize that is what is occurring, because you're getting to the heart of the matter. Help us understand more about how mindset impacts healing.
I think the way that you think, the way that you pull your thoughts together, the way that you credit yourself to be able to handle things all come from your mindset, which is really just a compilation of your lessons. So understanding that the I can'ts, or the I can't do this, or the this is not for me, or I'm just meant to be this way, those are all thoughts. And I think that it's very powerful to be able to take what you're going through and take what you're seeing and separate the fact from the fiction, or the fact from the feeling. Because a lot of times what you're feeling is based, like you said, on those stories that you have clouding your judgment. But it's not always the fact. It's not, a lot of people will say, everyone in my family is heavy, so I'm just, it's genetics. There's nothing I can do. False. That is not false. There are genetic components, but there's also habitual components. There's also components that come from tradition. There's also just lessons that you learned at home. So I believe that unpacking our mindset gives us control of our steps moving forward.
So you said it's hard to live every day feeling like you can't trust yourself or trust your choices. And it's even harder to live in a body that you're uncomfortable in. And you found yourself there. And I think about that. I don't necessarily begin thinking about that from the physical. Like, I want to be able to trust my instincts. I want to be able to trust that I can hear and know God is leading me. I want to be able to trust everything within me that makes me feel confident and strong in the ways that I desire. And so when I start hearing the notion that we feel like we can't trust our choices, that hits me, because that's something I know I want to be able to do. So I kind of work at sharpening myself that way. When someone finds themselves at a point where they feel like they can't trust their choices, and there's a lot of people who do that, right? Whether it's with addictive behavior around food, addictive behavior around cigarettes, addictive behavior around drugs, sex, alcohol, and they want to make a shift, but they don't trust themselves to be able to do that. How are you helping your clients develop that trust?
We go back to way basic to understand that one of the most crippling words we use is should. I should be able to do this. I should have more self-control. I should have more discipline. I should be more motivated. All those shoulds, if you could just unpack them, are really just judgments that came from other people that are not you. You know, when we were born, we innately knew what we wanted and needed. Physically, we're talking sleep, hunger, whatever we needed. We cried, we stopped eating, or we started eating, we stopped eating when we were done. We just knew. Even picture little toddlers. They don't know fear. They just unconditionally trust themselves to fall and get up again. It isn't until adults start putting thoughts in our heads of, don't do that, you're going to get hurt. No, stop. I don't want you to get hurt. Or you have to eat all the food in your plate. You know, all of these lessons that we start to put together as, I don't know what I need, they know better than me. I don't know when to stop eating. My mom said I have to stop when the plate is empty. I shouldn't go outside and have fun and climb things because my mom says I'm going to get hurt. Those are the beginnings of us saying, like, I can't make decisions for myself. And it kind of escalates as we go older. And it is easy to fall into dieting or other addictions, like you said, cigarettes and drugs and stuff, because they make us feel like we're in the driver's seat. We're kind of in control of that one thing. But the only way to ever battle control is with trust. And you do that by making small steps that prove to yourself that you can handle yourself, and reminding yourself of all the battles that you fought that you've turned out okay in, and celebrating small wins. And with food specifically, we do things like, if Denise says, I cannot have chocolate in the house, I'll just eat the whole thing. No, we're going to have chocolate in the house. You're going to eat a little bit every day. And every day you're going to tell yourself, look at me. I can enjoy this and I'm in control. I can enjoy this and I'm in control. So small steps to reclaiming that instinct that you always had that was kind of just taken away from you. And I feel like that, being able to connect with that instinct, being able to tell yourself, I got this, I really do know what I need, can silence all the outside noise.
Understanding our worth is important in that, because what you described in that scenario with the disarming that was happening with the child, not being able to trust their instincts about how much is enough, being forced to overeat,
Mhm.
being forced to rein in their desires, their ambitions, even their fun. It causes us to take on a pattern of shrinking, right? And shrinking, looking to fit in, shrinking, not believing we are worthy, not showing up fully as who we are. And then it begins to erode at our confidence. That's something that we've got to figure out how to get our arms around, especially for our young girls. When I think about so many high achieving women who struggle with this, who struggle with shrinking themselves so that they don't overpower, shrinking themselves so they don't show up strong, shrinking themselves so that they could try to fit in. It begins with the little seeds that were planted, just like what you talked about. And it erodes at our confidence in our own understanding of our value. Help me understand your thoughts on that.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It literally is, we don't know our value for a long time because it's kind of been taken away from us, but also those shoulds and the rules and the guidelines that we followed from everybody else make us feel like if we're not in the box, then we will be judged and we won't be accepted. And we can't be too loud because we'll be thought to be this. We can't be too much because we'll be thought to be this. And all along, it literally is a matter of shrinking yourself to fit in the box. And that's the lesson that so many parents teach. We don't realize that we're always teaching the kids that smaller is better, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, just keep yourself small. And I feel like we confuse the kids too, because we tell them, I want you to be, you can be anything you want to be. I want you to strive for everything, but don't be too loud. Don't ask for things too directly. Just don't. So we're telling them, I want you to do anything you want to do, but you have to do them with these guidelines. So I feel like the way to stop that as a mother is to call yourself when you hear that come out of your mouth. I started to notice it, things when my daughter was little, where I would say things like, I don't know, we're not going to leave the house. Like, I don't want you leaving the house looking a mess. Little comments like that, where, what do you mean looking a mess? How about it's my job to just brush her hair, and if she feels comfortable, we leave. Me saying don't leave the house looking a mess is a judgment, and it does make her question her appearance as she walks out that door. And it makes her question, if mommy is questioning what I'm saying, what are other people saying when I get outside? Like, I remember saying that one time and I never said it again, because I had to learn that the judgments that were in my head, if I didn't handle them and stop myself from coming out of my mouth, then they were going to learn that. They were going to learn insecurity. They were going to learn to be, in constant fear of who's saying what about them or if they fit in. And they're never going to be authentically themselves because I was going to take that away from them.
Not to put you on your therapist seat, because when you talk to me, I always take you there. But as you were talking, there's a couple of things that came to mind. When I was a young girl, I remember so distinctively 2 different occasions that had such a lasting impact on how I saw myself. There were more than 2, but these 2 came from family. And because they came from family, they seem to cut so deeply in a way that all the bullying and name calling that was outside of the household didn't. The first thing that was said to me is that I was too dark skinned to wear black. And I will never forget that, because it really gave me such a complex about my complexion. and that I really needed color, and I really needed to wear things that were colorful because I was just too dark to wear black. That was something my mother said to me. The second thing was that my toes were ugly. My brother told me that. My brother told me my toes were ugly. And I kid you not, Evelyn, I wore closed toed shoes all of my life until I was 40 years
Wow.
old.
Wow.
And it was when I turned 40 that I actually wore a pair of shoes that had my toes exposed simply because he told me my toes were ugly. And it was my
Now,
brother who told me that. Those words created such a shrinking in me that it took me so long to get over. Now, black is one of like the staple colors that I wear because it's so easy. And the
mhm,
only color every t-shirt seems to come in these days is black. But it took me a long time to get to the point where I felt comfortable wearing it. And I would always question myself in it. And so it
mhm,
was something that I had to work through. Look at my life. I went through all of my teen years, all of my 20 young adult years, and all of my 30 somethings never wearing a open toed shoe, simply because someone who is in a close circle to me said that to me. And that is why when you arrested what that woman said at the picnic to your daughter was so key, because it could have taken root and sent her on a completely different trajectory in her mind. Now, here's what I will also say to you: it didn't stop me from being successful. It
mhm,
was just the inside of me didn't feel so confident and strong. It didn't stop me from thinking I was cute at times, but the inside of me just never felt like I was beautiful.
mhm,
It didn't stop me from going on to pursue and do, but the inside of me always felt a little vulnerable and
mhm,
shrinking to what was going on around me because I thought I had these flaws.
mhm,
And I thought that they were like visual flaws,
mhm,
in the sense of something that I absolutely could not get rid of, right? And so I understand why the mindset work is important, even on a weight loss journey.
mhm,
I understand why the self-trust part is important, even on a weight loss journey. And I understand why the legacy piece that is important as well. Because I have always tried to, just like you, express to my children that their future was bright. And I can't tell you I've gotten it perfect,
mhm,
each and every time, but I tried to take those limiting beliefs and factors away so
mhm,
that they didn't feel threatened in a way that I had to fight each and every day to get by.
mhm.
And it's those things that make your work valuable, right? Because typically weight gain is a symptom of something else going on. It's something else at the root of it all. And, when I think about my own experience and what I had to really wrestle with in my mind and really help myself get past, it's important work because we're hurting on the inside.
And I feel like if you take the route of following a strict diet and doing intense exercise, you can reach your goal 100%, but you will be a smaller version of your unhappy self,
Mm.
and you will not be living in joy. And the truth is, to have sustainable change, you have to be equipped to handle it. You know, it's like someone winning the lotto and then never having changed their money habits. They will be broke again. So if you try a fad diet and you do something restrictive, but you haven't handled or discussed your habits or your mindset or your intuition or how to be mindful, then you're going to put that weight on with some extra pounds. And then you're going to be, you know, even worse off mentally and psychologically because of all the guilt and the shame and the remorse that comes with every failed attempt. So I feel like it's huge to work from the inside out. Yes, food and exercise are important, but when you have a healthy mindset and you have a strong foundation, you're equipped to make choices that naturally benefit you without all the negative consequences of dieting.
I love it. I love talking to you. We could go on and on, but I am going to rein us in here. I always expose some nugget of myself when I talk to Evelyn. You've got that couch appeal. All right. All right. So tell us all how we can stay connected with you, how we can stay plugged into where you're showing up and all that good stuff.
Well, I am on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Evelyn LeVassuer Fitness. I'm also at evelynfit.com, where I do lots of blogging for mindset, intuition, and then what I call the 5 principles of health, because food and exercise matter, but so does everything else. I also am on Clubhouse once a week on Wednesdays. I collaborate with 2 of our P2P sisters, Danielle Washington from the Hello Well with Danielle podcast and Nicole Roan from the Flow and Flourish podcast. And we have a Wisdom in Wine on Wednesdays where we discuss all the things. And then also I work individually, one-on-one clients. I have recently started doing consultations and nutrition audits. So I'm around all the time, and I am starting also a Tasty Tuesdays cooking with my daughters. So we'll be live on Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to draw them in. People love kids. So once you get in the kitchen and you just let all their beautiful, sassy personalities come to life, it'll be wonderful. Before I close out with my questions, I do want to say this. I remember when I had the desire to shave my head. It is fine, Mom. It really is fine. I shaved the side of my head and I had them draw like a checkerboard on the side of it at the same time. And it grows back. It's just a way where she can feel empowered.
Yeah.
And I am so glad that you are allowing her that freedom to feel empowered. So way to go, Mom.
Yes. You know, Denise, I feel like us women getting out of our way, getting rid of those things that we think should be right for them is such a gift. Is such a gift to just allow them to be who they are. Like that's a gift. Yeah.
All right. Well, you know, I love to challenge everyone to build a life they love without apology. And we always close out with the life, love, in pursuit of happiness questions. All right. So tell me, what's your life wisdom that you would tell your younger self if you could?
I would tell her that gratitude is a superpower, and anything that you're facing can be overcome or at least alleviated with gratitude.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. What's your love wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about love if you could?
That all of my relationships will be forged and focused on how I love myself. The more I love myself, the more I accept myself, the more my relationships flourish, and I weed out the ones that I don't need in my life.
And be okay letting those go.
Yes, ma'am.
And then finally, happiness. What's your happiness wisdom? And what would you tell your younger self about happiness if you could?
I feel like this one's an easy one. Happiness is a choice and it's an inside job. And if I can always focus on choosing happiness, I'll never have to chase it because it will always find me.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So I wore this t-shirt for you. It says, know your worth.
That's right.
I wore that just for you. And Evelyn, as always, you are just a joy to me. I love our time together. And finally, I want you to know that success looks so good on you.
Thank you. And for the record, beautiful in black, Denise. Beautiful in black. Mhm.
Well, thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Well, I hope that you found that conversation as intriguing as it was for me when I shared it with Evelyn. You see why I call her the quiet storm. Though she seems meek, she comes in with those powerful words that begins to peel back the layers and help you really identify your power and strength. I want you to know that you can trust yourself. I want you to know that your legacy is important. And I want you to know that you are strong and more than enough. I believe in you, and I believe that you can build a life that you love without apology. And that is why each week here, I encourage you to embrace your power and go. Now, if we aren't connected, I want you to come join me in my Facebook community, Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Happiness. It's really easy to find. I want you to share with me a nugget or two that you found in this episode. Thank you so much for being connected to me. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe, like, rate, and review. When you take time to rate and review, that helps other people find the podcast so that they can be encouraged just like you. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Well, that's it, beautiful. Thank you for tuning in. Don't ever forget that you truly deserve life, love, and all the happiness your heart can hold. Be relentless in building a life you love without apology. I'm Denise Taylor, and you can always find me in our free Facebook community. Life, Love, in the Pursuit of Happiness, easy to find. Now, if you want more information about my success superpowers, as I'm sure you do, download my free Success Superpowers ebook at denisetaylor.live/podcast. And one last thing, always embrace your power and go.